reading. Take a look at this paragraph. I've highlighted a lot of the words. I want you to focus on that. The persistent cloud cover, the almost constant patter of rain are narcotic. They seem to seal Seattle inside a damp, cozy cocoon, muffling reality and beckoning residents to snuggle up with a good book and a cup of coffee or a glass of wine. Are the highlighted words mostly connotative or denotative? Connotative, yeah. And I would argue that it's a positive association. I mean, it's not every, I mean, usually when you have a word like narcotic, it's going to be a negative way, but look how it's used. The rain, right, the constant patter is almost a narcotic, so the rain is creating a sensation. And the fact that, right, they seem to seal Seattle inside a damp, cozy cocoon, muffling reality, so escaping reality, and beckoning residents, people to snuggle up with a good book. So there's a feeling of like, I don't know, coziness, right? Warmth and coziness going on. And the words help to convey that. Okay. Well, I kind of explained. How is narcotic positive here? Well, it's like a drug-like feeling, I guess. I mean, that's the effect that the rain is creating, right? This sense of escaping reality, I guess. It's not like it's not. We're not talking about heroin or anything here, right? We're talking about rain, pattering. It's a substance that soothes and makes one feel tranquil. So that's the intent here. That's the effect. All right. I'm gonna go back. You guys are taking pictures? Wow. Okay. Now, we just talked about simile and metaphor, and the way that I explain it's a little bit different. I think a metaphor is a direct comparison, and a simile is an indirect, because you're not saying that something is something, you're saying something is like something, it's like this or as this. So, a part of me just wants to skip to the personification to avoid confusion, but I'll run through this anyway. So, our book says a metaphor is an implied comparison, and I think that works with the second part of my definition, the direct and imaginative comparison. Here's what I mean. So you really have to infer what's going on here. So take a look at this and see what's the metaphor here. Overnight, the World Wide Web weaves tightly around you. A novelty at first, then invaluable, then life support, then heroin. It's a chance to recapture everything you've ever lost. College friends, out-of-print rarities, quotations that had vanished forever. Your online hours must come from somewhere, and it isn't from your TV viewing. You lose whole days on the roller coaster of real-time eBay auctions. What is the implied metaphor in the first sentence? Overnight, the World Wide Web weaves tightly around you.
Like the internet consumes you.
Okay. Okay. So, but what's the comparison? What's the web being compared to? A spider? Yeah. A spider? Okay. Yeah, so it doesn't, so that's why I think a metaphor is more of a, well, it probably is indirect, but definitely imaginative, because you have to think, because it's not saying that the internet is like a spider. We have to infer that, right? Based off the language. Or some other people might think it might be a shawl, right? That's kind of weaving itself around, or a snake even, a serpent around your neck. But the web is definitely a good one, right? Because we're talking about the World Wide Web. All right. What about the second sentence? Explain the two metaphors in the second sentence. What is the web being compared to? A novelty at first, then invaluable, then life support, then heroin. The state of what?
Like the stages that you go through.
Yeah.
Like when you first start, then at the end you're like addicted to it.
Yeah, it's like the stages of addiction almost, right? Yeah. Yeah, life support and heroin. Okay. What is the metaphor in the last sentence? You lose whole days on the roller coaster of real-time eBay auctions. Right, online auctions are compared to roller coasters. So it didn't say eBay auctions are like roller coasters. It's basically saying what it is, right? So, how? Let me ask you this: how? I've never done eBay, but how would an eBay auction be like a roller coaster? The bid, you go up, you feel like you're gonna get, okay, you up and down, okay. So you see how the language works then? Okay. And then we talked about simile and imaginative comparison. Indirect. Our book says direct, but the main thing, but it's still the same. It uses like or as. His skin was as cold as ice. Simile. It felt as hard as rock. She looked as gentle as a lamb. Right? I look at this one. The fear of death haunted me for a year. I cried whenever anyone dropped a glass or broke a plate. But even when that passed, I was left with a sadness that couldn't be rubbed off. It wasn't that something new had happened. It was worse. I'd become aware of what had been with me all along without my notice. I dragged this new awareness around like a stone tied to my ankle. Wherever I went, it followed. How does that work? How does a simile, like a like a stone tied to my ankle, how does that help clarify the writer's emotions?
It's like she's stuck.
She's stuck to heavy, the weight of this. Well, think about it. If you have a stone tied to your ankle, you're not going to be able to move, so you have this burden, right? The fear of death, right? The fear of death haunted me for a year. I cried whenever anyone dropped a glass or broke a plate. It wasn't that something new had happened. It was worse. I'd become aware of what had been with me all along without my notice. So it's this fear of death, right? I dragged this new awareness around. So it's constantly, it's always there. I mean, if you had an ankle tied, a stone tied to your ankle, you'd know about it, right? It'd be a constant reminder. So that's what this new awareness of death is to the speaker here. Kind of heavy, huh? Deep. Now the last one that our book doesn't talk about is personification. Personification is basically giving non-human things human-like qualities. For example, take a look at this example. Fairhaven is a smaller version of New Bedford, which sits half a mile across the Acushnet River. Both cities are tough, bankrupt little places that never managed to diversify during the century-long decline of the New England fishing industry. If Gloucester is the delinquent kid who's had a few scrapes with the law, New Bedford is the truly mean older brother who's going to kill someone one day. So here we have two cities are personified, right? They're giving traits, right? Gloucester is what? Is called the delinquent kid who's had a few scrapes with the law. New Bedford is the mean older brother who's going to kill someone one day. Right? So Gloucester is a tough and gritty town, but New Bedford is much more dangerous. Why is it much more dangerous? Because that's the mean older brother who's going to kill someone one day. So when you give something that's non-human, human-like qualities, then you've personified that thing. Like when somebody says, time marches on. We personified time, right? We've given time feet. Time doesn't have feet, but we know, right? But when we personify it, it does. All right?